everybody. I'm Kristen Lago.
And I'm Jodee Storm Sullivan, and welcome to the second episode of the He Said, She Said podcast. We took a bit of a break last week. I had to go work the USC women's volleyball game, but
I had to take a nap.
Just as important. I don't really know, but we're back, we're here, and we're ready for episode 2.
And remember, you can watch us on YouTube, or if watching isn't your thing, you can also listen to us on SoundCloud. We're going to try to do this every Wednesday night, so maybe, we'll see.
Yeah, so basically, you want to get going on our fast pitches? Just start one right here, really quick?
I'm ready to go, okay?
All right.
So, like I told you, I think I'm obsessed with Tim Tebow. I don't know, not confirmed, self-confirmed by me. But I can't stay away from him in terms of the news. I don't know if you saw this trending kind of on Twitter and social media, but we already talked about him kind of playing 2 sports. Obviously, that's not really heard of nowadays. Going from football to commentating to going to baseball, but also he's apparently like a healer. So he was at his game. It was the end of the game. He started talking to the media, and then this fan comes up to him to get his autograph, and he starts having a seizure. Tim Tebow leans over the railing. He touches the fan, apparently says a prayer, and the fan resuscitates. What? I don't know if Tim Tebow has a touch from the heavens or something, but that's weird. Come on.
I mean, I think you looked into it a little deeper than I would have. I was like, okay, this guy had a seizure, the firemen, ambulance people came, and he came back. I don't think he ever lost his pulse or ever died.
I don't know,
but I mean,
come on.
If that helps you think that Tim Tebow is a healer, then I'll let you have that one.
I don't know. He's talked about all the time for being a very prayerful guy, healing. Maybe. I don't know. Tim Tebow might have a fourth career coming out of him.
I mean, I think he should figure out his third career first. That game he went 0 for 3, maybe he can say a little prayer for himself and revive that bat of his, maybe.
He's getting some good publicity over this. So, I mean, who's winning here? Tebow. Tebow is always coming out on top.
I guess.
But that was my favorite story of the week. I'm going to keep following him now. I was never a Tebow fan when he was in college. He was in NFL. When he was a sports commentator. No, now I am a Tebow fan. I'm ready.
Ex-football player, ex-commentator Tim Tebow is Kristen Lago's new favorite.
Yes, you heard it here first.
Maybe we should just do a weekly Tim Tebow segment. You could just follow him.
It's already everywhere. 2 in a row. I mean, who knows what's coming week 3.
All right, so my fast pitch. I'm a bit of a nerd. I will openly admit that I'm a nerd. So big fan, NFL player commercials. You got J.J. Watt and you got John Urschel. J.J. Watt, player for the Texans. Urschel, player for the Ravens. It's an ad for Bose headphones. They're in a lobby cafeteria, cafe kind of thing. And JJ's listening to some music, and then John Urschel comes by and is like, hey, man, those are some cool sound-canceling headphones. But you want to hear how they work. This whiteboard appears out of nowhere, and John Urschel just goes and starts breaking it down and going through all the science and the mathematics of how everything is sound canceling and all of that. You have JJ Watt sitting over there jamming out in his sound canceling headphones. So he doesn't have to hear Urschel sit there and explain everything that's going on with the headphones. And I just think that's really cool because, fun fact, Urschel's a PhD candidate at MIT. He finished up his first semester this past spring there. He took four PhD level classes and got straight A's.
And here I am struggling with my 4 undergraduate classes.
Yeah. I mean, hey, PhD mathematics, player for the Ravens, all in a day's work,
right? The funny part about this commercial is that Jodee actually showed this to me before the show, and she thought it was a lot more funny than I did.
It's hysterical.
I chuckled. It's quite funny. Take a look. You decide. I don't know. Jodee thought it was hilarious. So I thought it was funny. I love J.J. Watt. So yeah. I'm glad to see him doing some big things.
I mean, math,
since the field,
football, music, headphones. I had a good time. It's a good commercial.
Yeah, on that note, you decide. But so you've heard our pitches. So it's time to step off that a little bit. We're going to get to some top stories of the week that we found to kind of break it down. We're going to start in the baseball world. So, again, not my topic that I know too much about, so I'm going to be asking Jodee some questions. We'll see how well she does with that. But 2 big games that we had earlier this week in the playoff series. So, the Cubs is what everyone's talking about right now. I know it's a historic season for them. I don't even know the last time they were in a World Series.
It's been over 100 years ago.
Okay, so yeah, none of us have been alive for that one. So, it's a huge win for them. It was a they came from behind in the last inning.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me a
They
little
came
bit
from
about that?
behind, ended up winning 6-5. They took the series, and they're going to be playing the winner of the Dodgers and the Giants, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what I think is so interesting is last night's Giants-Cubs game was the most watched game, event, sporting thing on Fox Sports, like, in their history.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that the previous record holder of that was the Women's World Cup back 2-ish years ago.
Yeah.
So I just, that's so interesting. And I think that the Cubs storyline that they have going right now, it's been over 100 years, like we've said, since they won the World Series. And it's going to bring casual baseball fans to watching these games. It's going to bring non-Cubs fans, non-opponent fans. They're going to want to watch the game to see if they can witness history. And I think that transcends kind of the current divisional series, the championship series, or even if they end up making that World Series, being able to watch that World Series is going to transcend just like, oh, I'm a Cubs fan, or, oh, I'm a fan of the National League team that's over there.
You know, it's so interesting. I was looking just this morning at the prices for the World Series game. They already have tickets selling, and it's like conditional to like if the Cubs are in Game 5, $70,000 someone was willing to pay for tickets. So, I mean, speaks to like obviously historic time.
Wow.
But that is crazy, right? I would.
That's absurd. And that was, you said, Game 5 if they would have
Game
lost?
5 if it happens. No, Game 5 for the World Series.
Oh.
If it happens, it's conditional. If the Cubs are there, they charge them that amount.
That's
and
absurd.
If not, right? It's like, how are you even going? I don't know.
Crazy.
But another thing that's interesting from this game was, doesn't everybody always talk about the Giants in even years? Like, isn't that their thing? And then they ended up losing. So I thought that was interesting, too, that it's kind of both a little bits of history kind of going at each other.
Yeah,
in this
I think
sense.
that's interesting. It's been 3 World Series in the last 6, 7, 8 years,
pretty good
more
odds.
or less, which is pretty crazy. I think it's kind of a running joke that they always win in these even years. All my friends that are Giants fan were like, "Oh, be leaving." I was like, "Oh, that's cute," but they lost, so that's a little awkward now.
Not cool.
But what is funny and interesting, and I should have noticed this because I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, but someone wrote an article, I think it's from The Ringer, kind of drawing the comparison to how the last 3 albums that Taylor Swift has released has fallen on the same month or same year that the Giants have won the World Series.
Did she release an album this year?
Not yet.
Oh.
Maybe she's taking a year off. Who knows?
Should we start a conspiracy theory?
We should.
Taylor Swift, you are the reason that the Giants lost. Sorry. Moving on to the Dodgers, which I know a little bit more about because I'm from LA. I'm born a Dodgers fan, not really raised a Dodgers fan, but I like to say I'm a Dodgers fan.
Okay, that works.
So they also won in kind of comeback fashion, no?
They did. Chase Utley knocking in that single to score the run, and just that was pretty exciting stuff. They're heading back to Washington to play the Nationals. Honestly, I don't know. Obviously, being a Dodgers fan, I want the Dodgers to win. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat the Nationals at home. I know that they did it in Game 1 of the series. Max Scherzer's coming back, who did pitch the Game 1 loss for the Nationals. But I just think that the Nationals are kind of grooving. They're finding a rhythm and a consistent offensive rhythm in their lineup, which is something that the Dodgers have kind of struggled in this offseason and really in off seasons of past or playoffs of past. But, you know, we'll see. It's been a crazy year. It's going to be a crazy year.
Yeah.
It's October baseball, my favorite
You never know
time
what's
for
going to
baseball.
happen, quite honestly, this time. But I think I'm hoping, Cubs Dodgers would be
That would
the
be a fun
storyline
matchup.
because the Dodgers have a lot of storylines surrounding them with Vin Scully and all of that. Kind of this is their time, and we haven't seen that in a while coming from them. And then obviously the Cubs we've already talked about. But I don't know. We'll see. You're thinking it's going to be Nationals and Cubs?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Nationals and Cubs. Don't really want it to be, but I think that's how it's going to end up.
And I'll play devil's advocate and say the opposite. So I'm going to
That
go for the
works.
Dodgers. There we go.
We'll see what's going on next week.
Yes, we will. So stepping away from baseball, we're going to move into football. So there's a little bit of quarterback news coming from quite a few teams in the coming week. So let's talk about Colin Kaepernick. You haven't really heard about him playing on the field in quite a long time, but that's what's coming out now. Less moving away from kind of what the news that was surrounding him with all of the national anthem protests and his stance on a lot of social kind of activism things going on in the world today. But actually now the debate is going on of like, is he going to kind of revive the 49ers team that has been in a slump, quite honestly, throughout the season so far? And they announced him as their starting quarterback. I actually think he just finalized his contract up today. So what do you think on this kind of, what's your take?
I don't know. I think that the 49ers need something to kind of reboost their team and reboost their offense. And Kaepernick, I know he was dealing with some injuries, wasn't really practicing with the team in the preseason fully, and that's why Blaine Gabbert ended up getting that starting role kind of just by default, and he knew the plays better and the playbook and calls and all of that. So honestly, I think Kaepernick, adding him in is going to be good. I don't know how well he's going to perform.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen live action in about a year, I think, now.
And we've seen him kind of go up and down. I mean, remember when they were, at the top of their game and he was the starting quarterback and he was touted as, the next big quarterback, and then we just saw him decline. No one really knows, what actually really went on kind of in that situation. So I don't know. I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to take a stance on that.
Yeah,
but
part of that, I think, kind of falls from the loss of Harbaugh and just kind of the weird internal implosion that the 49ers saw a couple years back. And they're trying to rebuild, trying to get that under Chip Kelly. But honestly, I don't know. I think adding Kaepernick is going to give a boost to their offense.
Definitely
I don't know.
Spice it up a bit, yeah.
Definitely. I don't know if it's going to be enough to win or make a dent in really anything, but it's going to be better with what they have now.
Yeah, everything is going to be better than what they have now. But another team that's dealing with kind of a who should start quarterback, as per always with this team, is the Dallas Cowboys. Is Tony Romo going to come back instead of Prescott? I think it would be the dumbest thing in the world to start Tony Romo. I don't know what Jerry Jones' obsession with Tony Romo is, because every season he gets hurt. He's not a star quarterback anymore. I mean, we've seen the Cowboys actually start to have a good season this year, and you're like, why change what's working? Like, I want to shake him. Why? Why stir the pot? Why do you...
I think because Tony Romo's the franchise quarterback. I mean, he's played well. He's gotten injured, hasn't really gotten good, consistent playing time. Honestly, I think you keep Prescott in there. I think he's their hot hand. He's been winning games. Both him and Ezekiel Elliott as rookies are just dominating. Why would you want to break up that matchup, that kind of that offensive dynamic and just teamwork that the two of them bring to that offense?
Yeah, I get the franchise, quarterback. You've seen it with Brady. Like, if ever they were to, not bring Brady back, that was a whole thing in its own. But he's actually playing well, you know? He adds something to the offense. I think Tony Romo, and forgive me for saying this, but I think he's a little past his prime. I think it's time for him to move on. He will always be the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, everybody who thinks of the Dallas Cowboys will always think of Tony Romo. Just like, when you associate Peyton Manning, I'm always going to think of the Colts, because that was his team for so long. And Kobe and the Lakers. It's just
they're just
sort
connected.
of identity.
They're one in each other almost.
But I don't think you need to kind of have him playing in order to keep that identity alive. I don't know. I think Jerry Jones needs to hop off the Romo horse and hop on to the new team that they have now, because they're playing well. I think they have a real shot in their division if they keep playing the way they are.
Definitely.
So why change what's working?
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I get Tony Romo. He's had, 3 shoulder injuries now, collarbone injuries. That's
he was
insane.
my fantasy quarterback last year. I remember when he got injured, and I was really upset. So I think he's past his prime. I think it's time. I think it's also a him thing. He needs to be like, this is enough, But I don't know. I think the fans also probably play a little bit of a role. I wonder what they say, because I'm not a Cowboys fan directly, so I'm not, attached to him. But I wonder if that plays any role, because Jones is a big business guy and a big team guy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the fans love Romo. I don't know if they necessarily are agreeing with Jerry Jones. I personally don't know a ton of Cowboys fans, so I can't really speak on that.
Here in LA, not too many.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one as well. I think I'm more for Kaepernick starting than I am for Romo. So
definitely.
But staying in football and moving on to a subject we both know a lot about, we're going to talk about USC football. They are coming. Whoa, that was weird.
So we just lost our lights.
We did. I don't know if they can see us. I think it's a motion-censored room.
You would hope.
I don't know. Should we try it? There we go. Lights are back on.
All right. So if you're just listening to us on audio, you're going to think that we're a little crazy. If you're watching us on video, we just lost our lights.
We lost our lights. There we go. But
they're back.
Lights
so
are
we're
shining on USC. Hopefully this weekend. They're going up to Arizona to take on the Wildcats. They're coming off a 2-game winning streak. 2 games.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Give it up for them.
Stringing those wins together.
They're coming back. I see a little bit of a comeback out of them. I think we have seen, just watching, a different team sort of from what we saw in the first 4 games of the season, or 3 games of the season specifically. So what do you think? after that, let's break down the ASU game a little bit.
Okay.
So what do you think what have we improved on so far? What has USC been doing better? And what do they need to improve on for this coming game?
I would say offensive efficiency is something that we found, or that the team has found.
Colorado. I said ASU.
Colorado.
But
you're just all over the place.
I'm all over the place, but we just played Colorado. We did not.
Yeah.
We already talked. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So I think offensive efficiency and kind of cohesion, and the team really seems to be moving, at least on the offensive side of the ball, as a unit and together. And I think that comes with the addition of Sam Darnold. As quarterback. I think, yes, he's a freshman, and he played a little bit like a freshman against Colorado. He had the fumble, the weird scramble, but then that weird scramble ended up turning to a touchdown, which I remember.
Play the game.
Wow, Russell Wilson-esque here.
Yeah.
On that. Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, I definitely think that offensive kind of cohesion and efficiency is something that they've been able to grow and keep improving on each game. And I think that it's something that's going to show up, and it's something that's going to really take advantage of Arizona's kind of weak passing defense. So, yeah. And then I think also coming out of that Colorado game is Justin Davis and his high ankle sprain.
Yes. Because I saw him after the game in a boot. So I don't know. Was he practicing today at all or still out?
Nope. He wasn't practicing, but who was practicing was Zach Banner, was playing in with the ones. So we'll see.
The thing about Zach Banner, I honestly don't think our line is suffering without him, which I think is something that is honestly a big news story because he was touted coming into this season as an All-American, a top draft pick for us. He's huge. I mean, he has the physicality to play to the best of his position, but I don't think we're seeing that from him. And I honestly think that the line is better off without him. I think they need to keep that starting lineup that they had. But especially just because our run game was pretty good against Colorado. I think they did have a little bit of struggles with the turnovers, which we saw in that game. But hopefully this week, in practice, they're able to adjust that for Arizona. I think Arizona is sometimes a trap game for USC, as we've seen in the last couple of years. I think USC almost always loses to at least one Arizona school, and it alternates between ASU and Arizona, which is bizarre. So I don't know if they can break that streak this weekend. They're going to be away, which is an interesting one. They've been at home for the last 2 games. So I think it's going to be a real test of the team, kind of playing on the road again, getting their feet back under them, and seeing if Sam Darnold can really step up as a leader of this team and not just, this freshman phenom that's coming in kind of frantically and fanatically. Because I think you see him when you play, and you can see everything that's running through his mind, a million things at once. But I think he's doing a good job. I think our line is doing a lot better. Our defense played pretty well as well.
Yeah, definitely speaking on Darnold, he's a good pocket awareness. He sees the open players downfield. He has a good pocket presence, and he's not afraid to run, which I think is something incredibly valuable, especially with kind of this year's team and this year's offensive scheme. But I like that you brought up that it's a trap game.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a little weird. Like you said, USC always seems to lose to one of the Arizona schools. So this year, it's away in Tucson, 12:30 kickoff. It's going to be 91 degrees at the start of kickoff, which is just beyond warm and hot, honestly, at this point.
And that stadium is a loud one. I've been there for a game. I hear them when they're practicing. They have the fan noise on, which I think is interesting. So I don't know.
Not only that, it's the 100th anniversary of the Arizona USC matchup over there in Tucson. So it has the makings of a trap game.
Well, and I think it speaks a lot to the Pac-12 South, because if USC wins this game, they make a real case for themselves. I mean, they're the only ones that kind of can keep them in it at this point. Yeah. They have to rely on other teams losing, obviously. But the Pac-12 South, I think, is a toss-up right now. I think the Pac-12 North has gotten a lot more. You kind of see who's coming out on top. Washington has continued to shock me with how well that they are doing. Yeah. I mean, did you see the game against Oregon?
Yeah, it was like 70-something. That was absurd.
Insane. And they hadn't beaten Oregon, and I think it was 12 years.
It was a long time.
And then Washington State as well. So I think the North is a lot more established as to who's going to take the North. The South is, like I said, a toss-up. You had Colorado at number 1, then they lost to USC at home last weekend. So I don't know who's going to take the Pac-12 South, but I think it's going to be interesting to see. And this game really has a lot of weight in that. So
yeah, it's a lot of competition down here in the South. But speaking of the North, both Washingtons are undefeated. Crazy. You have Stanford sitting at 2-2, and everyone else is below 500 up there, which is just crazy. And then you hear in the South, everyone has a loss. Arizona is sitting with 3 losses. So I think they're out of title
They're in
contention at this point.
But if they beat USC, they knock
because
them
another
right
title
out.
contender.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think right now USC, if they want to make it to that Pac-12 championship game and win that South Division, they're going to need to win out the rest of their Pac-12 games, which is going to be difficult. Especially they're going up to Washington. Like
that's going to be
crazy.
That's going to be their hardest game I think they have left. UCLA is always a tough game, but they're not doing too well this season. I know everybody has been talking about how Rosen just has no support on that team, but I think that's always a tough game. Notre Dame also not doing too well this season. So the rivalry games I think are less of an issue this year just with the way that both of them are playing. I think it's really going to come down to Washington and then also Cal. Thursday game, they do have a bye week coming off of this next game at Arizona, so they'll have some time to kind of recuperate. But I think this game carries a lot of weight. It's always a trap game. It's usually a trap game for USC, so I don't know. Do you have any predictions? What are you thinking?
I think USC is going to win, and I actually think that they're going to come out and kind of play well and take advantage. I think T. Martin and his kind of team of playmakers are going to come up with an offensive scheme that's going to allow Darnold to really just pick apart the Arizona defense and really take advantage of their inability to protect on passing plays. I know when Josh Rosen and UCLA played against Arizona, he picked up 350 passing yards. So I think that Darnold is going to be able to sit there, kind of sit in his reign, sit in the pocket, and just distribute to all of his receivers.
Now that he has some time from the line, there he goes. So I agree. I think USC is going to come out on top this game. I'm a little bit more confident in saying that, which is weird. I haven't been confident in saying that I think they're going to win for a while. But I think USC is turning itself around. I think the coaching staff is getting a grapple on the team and really seeing who are going to be the playmakers of this team. And I think Adoree Jackson is going to have another game. I mean, we saw him last week. He's phenomenal to watch. He's just fun to watch. So I think he's going to have another great game, and I think Sam will as well.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Adoree sits there and scores a touchdown on either a punt return or a kickoff.
Oh, yeah.
A touchdown on defense, and then, who knows, an offensive touchdown just because he's playing so well.
It's absolutely insane. And I think we're going to see a lot of special teams plays as well, because I think Baxter hasn't had a chance to really, he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. So I think we're going to see some of that come out against Arizona.
I'm hoping Jackson, when he gets going, he's dynamic. He's exciting to watch. Definitely the spark plug of USC's team at the moment.
Oh yeah, and he knows it as well as anyone. I remember the press conference where he said it's like a party every time he comes out, which I agree with, and I think a lot of the fans and the teammates do.
And I think as a captain, that's something that he can really relate to his teammates and kind of just feel like, hey guys, like, look, I'm playing well, succeeding, like, let's have fun and play well together.
I agree, and we saw that coming out of a lot of the players as well. So that's our top stories of the week. Now we're gonna kind of go away
from a stretch.
A little stretch. I'm getting a little tired.
Me too.
Maybe switch the subject a little bit.
A little bit of a stretch.
I don't know. Still gonna talk about sports.
Still sports. Probably a little bit more serious.
Yeah, definitely serious in nature. So we're gonna talk a little bit on locker room talk.
Yeah.
So this topic actually didn't come out from any real sporting event or anything like that.
Not at all.
From the presidential debate. I'm sure, hopefully you were watching. It's an important one. But Donald Trump was approached by the moderators about a video that came out where he was I don't even know how to describe what he was saying. It was very offensive to women.
Definitely.
Talking about sexual assault.
It's very crude.
Crude,
at that point.
yes. I won't repeat what he said, and you can Google it if you want to hear it. Sitting in a car with Billy Bush. They didn't know they were being recorded. It was a private conversation, but still, the nature of that conversation was very explicit, very offensive to a lot of women. And dealing with a lot of issues that are actually really prominent right now that a lot of people are talking about. So horrible publicity for him. It was brought up in the debate, and he categorized what he was saying as locker room talk. And as soon as he said that, it kind of took off on social media. It became a trending topic. And a lot of athletes started to come out and say, against this, this is not locker room talk. What I think is interesting is that it actually sparks a lot of, a wider conversation about, athletes in general do get a lot of heat for, all the domestic violence that we've seen in athletes. Kind of their nature of their lives. So I think it brought to light a little bit about kind of what they talk about in locker rooms. And one of the most vocal sort of, antagonists to this, he was really going against this was LeBron James.
Yeah.
So he came out in a press conference, and what did he kind of came out and said, no, this is like not locker room talk. So did you watch that press conference?
I watched a little bit about it. I probably saw some of the highlights cut up on Twitter, and basically like, this is not locker room talk, this is trash talk. And I honestly think, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, regardless of who you're going to be voting for in November, like, that talk's just disrespectful.
Oh, I completely agree.
To have someone sit there and say things about that and then be like, oh, it's locker room talk, like we all talk like no, I don't think so. Like, it crossed a line.
It definitely crossed a line, and especially because I know a lot of like college athletes here, and there's one thing to be joking around, but this is not a joke, you know? Like, it's not saying like, oh, that girl is really pretty, you know? Like, no, this is, I'm gonna grab this girl because I can, because I'm famous.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of weird ego issues there, a lot of just, it's really strange, little misogynistic going on there, and it's uncomfortable.
Well, it also throws a lot of people under the bus just because athletes are such prominent role models, I think, for a lot of people in this world. I mean, even if you're not a sports fan, you most likely know who Tom Brady is. You most likely know who LeBron James is. And to have, that kind of name skewed, if you're a little boy or little girl watching this, oh, that's locker room talk. Like, that's just the way people talk, when they're with their boys, know?
Which is not.
No.
I mean, it makes it sound like it makes it okay. It's making excuses, and it's not. It's disrespectful. It's degrading, and it honestly shouldn't be said. Like, it shouldn't have been said. And actually, no. It shouldn't have been said, but it shouldn't have been classified as locker room talk. And I'm really glad that a bunch of athletes did take to Twitter and defended themselves and defended, I guess, more or less just athletes as a whole. And was like, this is not what we talk about in the locker room. Like, this is degrading to women. It's trash talk. Like, that was just the theme going on from the NBA. I think a lot of the NBA players really
spoke up about it. And I think that was kind of expected. I think they oftentimes have the biggest social media voice. I think it's noted that NBA players have the biggest followings on social media. So I took a lot of pride in someone like LeBron James, who's one of the world's most famous athletes, I think one of the most well-known, and he eloquently put it in that press conference. What I thought was really interesting was when Tom Brady was approached with the same question. I don't know if you saw this. They asked him, because he came out as a verbal Trump supporter early on in the primaries when Trump was just declaring for candidacy. And they asked him, what do you think about this? And he said, thank you for the questions. I have to go. Completely avoided it. So I don't know. I think he might have lost an opportunity to really take a stance on that and lost a little bit of his credibility because, I mean, you're kind of throwing yourself under the bus, I would say. That point. Because locker room talk explicitly calls out athletes. It's not just calling out, men of the world. Yeah. It's saying that, this is what they're talking about behind your back, all these people that you claim to, idolize and respect. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting kind of take on it. I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes on because a lot of athletes are getting so involved in this election. So
everyone's kind of speaking. I feel like, I don't know, I'm only 20, so I haven't seen a lot of presidential elections, but I feel like this is something that every celebrity, every athlete, every kind of prominent figure, and even just everyday people are taking to social media to really talk about this, to make their opinions known, which honestly, I don't really remember this from the 2008, 2012 elections.
I think more when Obama was first running. I think that was just such a historical election. A lot of prominent people did, but I think what they've been saying is that this is the most talked about election of all time. Yeah. And I do think athletes have a real kind of sense of responsibility, maybe not to impart their views on other people, but definitely to get people out to vote. And I think they've done a good job so far of speaking out on the issues without some have come across quite clearly who they support, but I think a lot of them have done just, it's your duty to vote. So that's been interesting. Yeah.
Which is a interesting stand. I'm definitely registered to vote. So
no, it'll be my first election. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited.
Yeah. But so that pretty much wraps up our second episode of the He Said, She Said podcast. So you can listen to us on SoundCloud. Go ahead, watch us on YouTube. If you want. If you want to see us lose our lights halfway through the show. And then
I think that was the highlight of the show.
Oh, good one. Funny. So anyways, thanks for listening. I'm Jodee Storm Sullivan.
I am Kristen Lago. And from the USC Annenberg Media Center, this has been He Said,
She Said.
There you go. Good night.